If you listen to the show, you already know that we cannot exist without our sponsors. They are the ones who make things happen behind the scenes. So let's acknowledge Fuji Sports. We've been working with these guys for a while now, not only as far as this podcast is concerned, but also at the RŌL Academy. We've had their gear. I personally use their gis. What a phenomenal product.
Yeah, I mean, Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, MMA, tape, bags, anything you need for your Jiu-Jitsu journey, you can find at fujisports.com.
Let's talk RŌL TV. There's so much content on there. It's ridiculous at this point. But I think what is even more intriguing, as time went on during the project, we've been recording most of the events that were taking place here at RŌL Academy. At this point, I mean, we have guys like Chris Howder, Armin Fati, Rafael Lovato Sr., and Pete the Greek. I mean, there are so many different events that we've kind of recorded it. Don't you think that's amazing? I mean, points of reflection and kind of going back for all the students to see what really happened and refresh their memory.
Yeah, I think it's great, you know, being able to go back and look at all these high-level practitioners, Octavio Cudo, like one of the names you didn't mention. And I mean, just these guys that have been doing this for so long come in, teach these amazing seminars and workshops, and it's all recorded and there for you to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to get additional savings on all this, type in code RŌL Radio at the coupon and get additional 30% off of your membership.
Nice. Go to rolacademy.tv. What's up, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please remember to hit the like, share, subscribe, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. That ensures that we can continue bringing you the great guests and amazing content that you have come to expect. Today's guest is a black belt under one of the most respected professors in Jiu-Jitsu and is the owner and head coach of a successful academy. Rob Hileman joins us to discuss what it really takes to run an academy, the slow burn of Jiu-Jitsu, how a student's contribution back to Jiu-Jitsu sets it apart from other sports, and a ton more. Here's the RŌL Radio with a successful musician, a Tom DeBlass black belt, and the owner-instructor at Leverage BJJ, Rob Hileman.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
Yeah, here we go. You almost forgot to record today.
I almost forgot a lot of things today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we can talk about that, right?
Listen, like I had some meetings in the morning, and, you know, me that as OCD I am about planning and calendar and being everything blocked out on my calendar, like I put enough cushion, and then things don't go according to plan, and I left my bag at home intentionally, thinking that I'm going to go back home, and then I'm like rushing. You know, and like I gotta go home, and then we gotta record the podcast, and then about 10 minutes away from home, I'm like, shit.
10 minutes after you left, not 10 minutes towards home, right?
Yeah. So I got home, I left my house, I'm 10 minutes away from my home towards here, and I'm like, shit, I left my bag at home.
Nice.
And I went home for my bag.
Yeah.
And I was like, poof. So panic.
Typical.
Yeah, no.
Oh, very typical.
Anyway, Rob, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
It's going to be a long day.
It's going to be.
That's all right. All days are long.
Great to have you here. But just before we start recording, we learned that you have a dog and you have a bell at the door, and the dog sounds the bell when he or she is a male, female.
It's a boy. Yeah.
It's a boy. What kind of dog do you have?
It's a Cavapoo. So a Cavalier.
King Charles, and
King
some
Charles,
sort of
yeah.
poo. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
nice.
Yeah.
So how well does the bell work in the
yeah, you know
concept?
what? We put it up there as soon as we got him, just on like a recommendation of a friend, and he's always gone to it, like ever since we got him. So it actually works pretty well.
Good for you. I had a boxer. I tried doing that, and first of all, he was ringing the bell all the time, and then he started peeing right next to the bell, and I was like, "Screw this stuff. This doesn't work."
Yeah, backfired that time.
No kidding.
Yeah,
and you can't punish him, right?
No. That's like, that didn't work.
That didn't work. But anyhow, how is life going for you?
Life is good, man. Life is good. It's busy, and as it is for everybody. I have 2 little kids, and the academy, and travel a little bit, and I also like playing a band and that kind of stuff. So
Nice.
Just busy but very good, doing lots of great things.
Many think that running an academy or teaching jiu-jitsu, we like show up for an hour, then we go surfing, we eat some acai, and then we go home and sleep. Maybe we'll teach another class in the evening, like depending. Some of us do privates occasionally, but there's this misconception of the amount of effort that really takes to 1, teach, 2, run things, 3, to make the community factor, which is it based on a lot of the guests that we've had on the show, extremely important, and a lot of that puts a lot of not only pressure but it also takes a lot of effort, mentally and physically, from the instructor. Would you relate to that, or is life easy?
Oh, absolutely. No, I think that it's one of those things that you kind of try to impart that wisdom on people that want to open a school, that, it quickly becomes about the school and not about sort of your training anymore. It depends, depending on what kind of person you are. I put my heart and soul into my school, and I think that I think some people aren't prepared for that jump, and that reality that, like, you're becoming more than just a person that trains jiu-jitsu now, and a person that loves jiu-jitsu. It's you're stepping into 5 or 6 more different roles, that definitely take up your time and your emotional and physical energy.
Do you think that they are not prepared for it, or they are unwilling to do it?
I think maybe you have cases of both. I think if you're someone that has been incredibly focused on your own training for most of your journey, that can be a hard switch. But if you're used to, being that person on the mats that's helping others all the time, and, kind of putting yourself out there, maybe the transition is a little bit easier. But then you have to become this, sometimes like a business person, and, there's other aspects that people just, sometimes don't think about.
Yeah, Gary, who was that? Braulio Estima that told us that competition is selfish, and
it was either Braulio or Zanjay.
Zanjay, might have been Zanjay Ribeiro, and he made this analogy that really stuck with me. Is competition is a selfish act, and teaching is selfless act, and because of this drastic spectrum, black and white, the conversion oftentimes is very difficult, and only handful are able to really master this, and you can really see the visible success for the handful who were able to achieve. I mean, we can list the names here, but not everybody who competes is able to convert.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I would 100% agree with that. And I think that competitors, especially like those guys and people that are doing it at very high levels, I mean, I don't blame anyone for being a bit selfish there. I mean, you must, do what it takes to compete at that level, and that it has to be a kind of a selfish time, preparing for things like that.
Well, even if you look at professional sports in the more established professional sports, basketball, football, even if you take swimming, more singular approach, not a team sports, not many great players convert into great coaches. Matter of fact, there's this notion. I actually recently read that there's some statistics saying that actually that the good players, not the great ones, but the good players convert into great coaches. The ones who have not achieved the highest level of success, but they dipped into it, where maybe perhaps the satisfaction was not, they were able to taste it, but they were not able to reach all of it. You know what I mean? So and those become the great coaches, great instructors. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think that makes total sense. I I think it is rare that you can have someone that is an incredible competitor and just as incredible as running a school. I mean, that's a fantastic combination. That is a very hard life. I'm sure you guys know people and have spoken to people that, you live a competitive life, at those levels. And that is, it's, I don't want to say like your life sucks, but it's a hard life, to be that good and to commit yourself to something that fully, it's not easy. A lot of people don't see that, they don't see what's under the surface of all that. So I think that makes total sense.
I was recently actually watching an interview with Michael Phelps, and he expressed that he has not, during his peak when he was achieving the highest achievement in his career, he has not taken one day off training for 5 years consecutively. 5 years, 356 days. Is that how many we have? Whatever.
Sure.
That is
356.
Oh, I know how come you forgot.
356 days.
Yeah. Yep. And when there's 52 states, there's 8 days a week. No, I'm not gonna help you with this. I'm having fun with this, Rob.
Yeah, that's an unimaginably difficult life. Yeah, really,
it's incredible, and I don't know. I mean, how many people can achieve it, and that's very few, right?
Oh, 56.
Yeah, and you're talking about too, like we're talking about fighting. Like Michael Phelps is swimming, and not to take anything away from that sport.
Yeah,
but this is I would have to assume that it's much harder on your body. It's harder, on your everything physically. And that, man, it's just it's such a grind. It's such a grind. But I mean, for those that do it, that pay its price, like it's incredible to watch what they achieve.
Is it worth it? For you.
For me, I have not been at the top. But I would say that I was more referring
to teaching.
Oh, for teaching? Yeah. Like, is it worth, what do you mean?
Is what we do is what you do on a daily basis worth the teaching? You talked about a few things a moment ago: kids, family, teaching, obviously, sacrifices that you make, running operations, and you even mentioned a band, which I would imagine takes up some time.
Sure,
it's passion of yours. Is it all worth it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that just watching people grow in this art and do whatever they end up doing, whether that's being a competitor or just being a member of the community. And I'm sure you guys have seen it. This turns lives around. It gives people something that I have not seen anything else give people. It's so incredible sometimes to see the results that come from someone that starts training, and I've over the past several years that I've had my school, I've witnessed, so many incredible stories and so many like comebacks and just people healing themselves. And that is definitely worth it to me. And that's definitely that's definitely the piece of it for me that means the most, just watching people kind of enrich their lives in whatever way that they need it, So 100% worth it. Absolutely.
So let's go back a little bit. I want to dig in a little bit more to the beginning of your life story.
Yes,
Who is Rob? Where you came from? Where did it all start? I often ask the same question to every guest, and it pivots into always interesting conversation. But I do think that that's the first milestone, the first step. Do you remember your very first day on the mat?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going way back, my first experience with any kind of grappling was, at the YMCA when I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and my dad. I have really poor vision. I've been almost like pretty much blind, my whole life. And when I was young, sports like baseball and football and things like that did not go well for me. And I'm also small too, I'm 140 pounds. And I remember my dad saying, "Hey, you want to check out this wrestling class at the Y?" It was just like a free class. I think I was about 9 years old. And I remember everything about it. You know, they had like old fold out mats, you know, like gymnastics mats. And, you know, there's, you know, 10 kids and, you know, a couple coaches there, you know, rough looking guys. And I remember, you know, doing the class and like I had fun. And at the end, I remember one of the coaches was like, "Who wants to wrestle Daisy?" And I'm like, "Daisy?" I'm like, "Oh, what the hell? You know, I'll wrestle Daisy. You know, it's my first day." And he puts me against this little kid. And the kid was smaller than I was, and I was a small kid. And this kid just beat me up bad. He just, you know, mopped the floor with me. And I remember just being like, I have to know how to do this. You know, I wanna know how to do this. So that was my very first experience, you know, with any kind of grappling. And that led me to kind of get to the, you know, wrestling team, you know, in middle school and that kind of stuff. And I also started to get interested in karate and taekwondo, things like that. There was nothing around here back then where I lived to do, you know, to get into, you know, jiu-jitsu or martial arts or mixed martial arts, anything like that for quite a while. Those were my first experiences.
So let's talk about the moment with Daisy, because I think those moments really shape who we are later on in life. And as silly and sometimes stupid those events are, those moments as they unfold. I mean, I had a similar moment, just you know, probably a little bit later in my life. But okay, so you're about to go with Daisy, and what's going through your mind? Do you have a recollection of like what's your ego check is, and what's in your mind? Like where are you at?
You know, honestly, it was just one of those things where like I saw the kid and I was like, wow, I'm small and he's smaller than me. Like I can do this. Like I can wrestle this guy and I can get him down on the ground. And you know what I mean? Like, why not? Why couldn't I? You know?
Yeah.
You know, so I wasn't worried about it, you know, and then to feel, you know, someone skilled like that just kind of do whatever they want to you, you know. But I think that those moments too, kind of like you said, they shape people. And I think that there's two kinds of people, right? There's the person that happens to, and they're like, wow, like I need to know how to do this. And then there's the person that is done immediately and they can't handle the check, you know, what in whatever age you are, you know, whether you're an adult trying your first jiu-jitsu class or a kid, you know, like I was then.
Do you think this is why people often refer to mat as equalizer, in a sense of, you know, either you will figure this out and you will stick around, or unfortunately you will depart at some point, like it will simply not work, and only the ones who can figure it out will really stick around?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that it is an unfortunate thing, because you want everyone to treat that experience the same. You know, you want them to, and I don't have people come into my school and just get pounded, you know, and then say, hey, like, what's your choice? You know, but you know, when you come in and especially, you know, you get the guys that, you know, maybe they're already like in law enforcement, or they're bigger and, you know, they're strong or you know, something like that. And they have an experience where someone small, you know, or even like a woman or, you know, anyone that, you know, it just controls them or completely shuts a person down and they can't really do anything, you know, like that's like a very tough thing for some people to face, you know, and it absolutely, it creates a scenario where you have to choose, you know, like, am I okay with having this done to me all the time and learning, or, you know, am I cool with that, or can I not handle it, you know? And I try to make sure that, you know, 90% of people can like come to terms with, this is a good thing. You know, this is the fact that you don't know what you're doing and it's going the way it's going is a good thing. And you need this in your life, you know? So I like to, I hope.
But even up to this point, we talked about like the physical challenge of it, right? Like,
yes,
you know, for lack of a better word, is we are getting smashed, and are you going to adapt to it, or are you going to quit? But there's more to it. I think this is the important part, and often not talked about part of jiu-jitsu: the mental stimulation, the ability to troubleshoot and fix things and
Yes.
figure stuff out, regardless of the size, power, strength, physical abilities. This is where I feel like a lot of people give up even more than the physical part.
But do you have to, true, but do you have to get over, I think, what Rob's talking about first? You got to get over that aspect of it, like the ego crush first, and then put your mind to the tasks of solving these issues.
I don't know. This is the interesting part of the conversation. I'm curious what Rob thinks about it, because look, if you don't get smashed, let's just hypothetically pretend you don't get smashed. So it happens. But jiu-jitsu is so overwhelming that you don't even know how to process the information. What happens then? Are you going to continue, or are you going to get discouraged?
I don't know.
Right.
Rob,
Go ahead,
you're on the verge of solving the mystery of jiu-jitsu right there.
No, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
What do you? What? Go ahead.
No, it's okay. No, it just it attacks like so many parts of you, like the physical, the mental. I guess it depends on what kind of person you are, on what hump you need to get over first, because some people are like, oh, well, I'm a fairly tough person physically, so I don't mind that. But maybe in their mind, the ego is not letting them, process a beating and take it as a good thing,
Yeah.
So,
I
or
think,
even
I
not,
think
maybe they're not getting beaten necessarily. They just can't control that smaller person. There's nothing they can do with,
Right.
and then they're frustrated rather than, physically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen a larger and stronger guy being manipulated by a small female? I mean, that's
Many
a point
times.
that's a point of frustration. I mean, like,
Many
let's
times.
talk about untalked about things,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, many times I've seen that, and it's like, it brings me great joy though, to see that. Like, it's because it's a cool thing, because it just proves everything that you're trying to, it sells jiu-jitsu in that moment, like that's the moment right there where you really see about, like, okay, this is very real, because we believe in it, because we know it and that we've been involved for so long. But, you kind of wait for that moment for everyone else, when you see them like, oh, okay, this is really about leverage and about timing and and technicality and things like that. And it's a cool moment to witness.
Yeah, I even remember way back in the day when Carson Gracie Sr. was alive, and I had privilege training with him, and I was on the smaller side, like 150, 160, 60, 65, and he always, any small guy in the room, and we had privilege to train with like Miguel Torres and Stefan Bonner, rest in peace, and some of the Chicago guys, but like anytime there was a time to test things out, he literally found the biggest guys in the room, in the whole facility, and he finally was like, "You go, the big guy, you go, you escape him, you escape anybody, boom." And you're like rolling your eyes, and it's like, "Oh Jesus," you were hoping for a light day, and there's a slaughter happening right now. But in a sense, there's some madness behind all of this, right? If we can manipulate the situation to the point where the physical components are taken away, now we can make strategically intelligent decisions and use leverage and mechanics to really, advance ourselves. I'm not even talking about winning, but just, defend, escape, control the situation, right? Like submission is not necessarily the win, not in every scenario,
No,
right?
not always. No, of course. It's funny too, because I always tell people too, like the bigger guys that come in, if they do stay, it's like in a year, I'm like, damn, why did I make this guy stay? Because a big, strong, skilled person is so dangerous. It's incredible. You know what I mean? It's like, man, I get a guy that, would come in and he's ex-football player. He's in phenomenal shape, 230 pounds, and you give that guy some tools. I mean, they're they're the most dangerous guy on the mat, but you got to stick around,
This weekend we had our graduation event here in my academy, and
Mm-hmm.
we had privilege to promote one of our teenagers. Well, he's no longer a teen. Well, I guess he is 16,
Right.
to a blue belt. But the interesting part is, like, I remember when he was a gray belt, and like,
Yeah.
these teenagers grow up, and the funny part behind it is that he's taller than me now, and like, I can't even, like, this is why I'm nice to everybody, because at some point I'm getting older, they getting older, and he's gonna smash me, and like, you gotta be nice to everybody because you just don't know.
Yeah. Yes.
But what an eye-opening scenario that's unfolding, as somebody who was fragile, was small, they grow
Yeah.
up, and now they are using the components that they have from a physical side, but they learn the skill so early on.
Yeah.
And the power they hold is
Yes.
just unbelievable. And they're
And
just
I love
starting.
that too. Isn't that just like an amazing thing to watch? A young kid grow up in the academy, and become a man. Like, it's such a cool thing to watch. I've had my academy for 10 years. It was 10 years in October, and I've had a couple kids that were with me before that, even, and just watching them become young men, and have this like skill set that, because I feel like when you're young, when you're 6, 7, 8, years old, you don't understand how cool it is, and how useful it is and what you're learning. It's like, it's just a good time and it's fun. But by the time you're 16 and now you're turning into a strong, young man, you have this skill set that is just like so incredible. And I love watching that happen. It's so cool.
Yeah. And then they continue to purple and then brown, and they smash you, destroy you, and you were like hoping that they take a break.
Yeah, exactly.
The wonders of being an instructor right there.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
So, speaking of teenagers, speaking of early on life, so we talked about just 8 years old, you're stepping on the mat at the UICA, and Daisy mops the floor with you. If you don't mind me putting in the light words here. But at which point do you get introduced to actual jiu-jitsu? At which point do you step on the jiu-jitsu mat for the first time, and what's that impression like?
Okay, so I did, like I said, I wrestled through middle school, so like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and then I wrestled through high school, 9th, 10th, 11th. Was never fantastic at it. I enjoyed it, but I kind of discovered music during high school, and my senior year, I wanted to be in a band and I wanted to play music, and so I, much to the disappointment of my coaches and my parents and stuff at the time, I stopped wrestling at a senior level, and I joined a band, started to play music, and my band actually became somewhat successful. We started to release albums, and we toured, and we traveled all over the country, went to Europe a few times, and we did a lot with music. And in 2007, the band was done, so it was about almost 10 years of playing music. And I was crushed by that. That was kind of my identity. It's what I thought I was going to do forever. And I was kind of bouncing around between jobs and, looking for things to do, and honestly, places to stay. And I was just kind of doing things I shouldn't have been doing, and just living a lifestyle that was no good, and I met a friend, I saw an old friend, and a guy that I had played music with years ago. And he said, "Hey, I've been doing jiu-jitsu, and my interest in martial arts and grappling and things, it had never gone away. It was something I always paid attention to, and I was always a fan of MMA and fighting and things." And he said, "Yeah, I'm like about to get my blue belt." And I'm like, "That's great, man. Like, where are you doing that at?" Because like I needed something in my life at that point. I really did. And he told me where he was going, and I was like, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna come and try a class." And so I think it was in early 2008. And I went and I tried a class, and I was just immediately wanted to completely immerse myself in it. You know, it was exactly what I needed. I had the wrestling background, so that helped a little bit, you know, as far as just getting onto the mats and getting started. And I actually was super interested in like striking and kind of MMA and stuff at the time too. So I just kind of dove in head first. I was doing everything, you know, and that kind of became, you know, what turned my lifestyle around and a new obsession for me, a healthy obsession, you know. And I was training a few times a day at points, and things like that. So that's when I got back into it.
What year are we talking about? How old were you?
2008. So I was, I'm 41 now. So I was like 28.
Yeah, late 20s. Yeah.
Yeah. Late 20s.
So you going in on that first day,
Mm-hmm.
are you thinking that you're going to wrestle? Like, what's your, you have some experience, right? So you have some experience. This is the interesting things that I always try to kind of learn from guests and from people. Because like, you have existing experience. So there is a perception in your mind of what you think is going to happen, right? This is not unknown. Like there is image that blurry, but it's image, right?
I definitely
what
had
are you thinking?
This preconception that I was going to lean on that, you know, for sure. And it was going to at least help me.
Did it?
You know what, like to a degree. I mean, jiu-jitsu is still, it's relatively young in my area, you know, so I wasn't stepping on the mat with a bunch of, you know, killers. You know, the school was relatively new. To see a purple belt around here then or a brown belt was like, you know, that was like someone walking on water. You know, it was not, you know,
I know.
You know, so it just wasn't that developed here. Like my instructor was like, you know, a high blue belt, you know, maybe 3 stripes or something like that. He was not, you know, he was almost still getting started and still, he was like a person in the area that was deep into karate and things like that and just had discovered jiu-jitsu and started to go that MMA route, you know. So but there were some tough people there for sure. And I, you know, I think the first day I ended up getting paired with someone that was way bigger than me. It was like, you know, you're looking around the room, everybody's partnered up, and there was one guy and he was like 275 pounds, you know, and it was like his second class, you know. So it's like you got the 2 new guys together. He's 150 pounds more than me. And so it like didn't go great. But I still loved every second of it, you know. But I don't think my wrestling helped that much. I think it helped me have a base and it helped me understand what grappling is. You know, I knew what I was walking into, you know, but.
So what's your perception after the class? What's the difference?
How did I feel when it was over?
Yeah, when it was over, the first time you roll with this guy, you know, and obviously he's not the smallest guy, probably physically more he has more physical attributes. He's stronger.
Yeah.
This is what it is. What's your feeling afterwards?
It was that same feeling from when I was a child and tried wrestling. It was just like, I have to know how to do this. I want to know how to do it so bad, you know? And the only thing prior to that I really knew about was just like a lot of people my age, it was like the UFC, you know, it was like, you know, getting together with all the guys in high school, you know, for a pizza and a sleepover and renting, you know, UFC 2 and 3 and you know, all that stuff. And that was the first time, you know, and everybody sees Hoist Gracie and it's like, there's this smaller guy like beating up these like massive, you know, dudes and like no one understood it. You know, like how can this person do that? You know, and ever since I saw that, it was just something I was always so interested in, you know, and I feel like so many people have that story, but like, that's what it is for a lot of people. That's how it started.
That's the mind-blowing part. I feel like we all have a different story, how it all started, but yet it is so similar. It's almost like the same person writing a different book in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
It's like in some sense, somehow we got beat up. In some sense, this didn't make any sense in our head. And then we're trying to figure this out. And then 10 or 20 years later, we're still here trying to figure it out.
Yes. It's so true. It's like, it's funny because I always tell people like that, like my students and stuff and my friends at the academy, like people always say like the same things, you know, like, man, I just like, I can't figure this out, you know? And I'm like, I'm not this or that, you know? I'm just like, man, just before you get like all bent out of shape about learning and like this and that, like it never goes away. That feeling, you know, where you're like, you know, progress. Obviously, some people come, you know, progress comes faster to them or whatever. But jiu-jitsu is such a slow, you know, it's such a slow burn. You know, it's like you measure your progress in like 6 to 8 to 12-month intervals. It's like, am I a little bit better than I was a year ago?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and it's like, you know, it's just such a funny thing. But that's why people do it, though. It's part of the addiction, you know, because you scratch and claw for every bit of it.
Do you think that's one of the reasons why people stick around and continue hunting that jiu-jitsu high, if you will?
Yeah, definitely, because there's no end, you know, and I think that's one of the amazing things about it. It's like you'll never be at a place where you're like, I think I got this, you know. It's like, and it's never over, you know. It's never over. And I think
why people
that's
leave
very
too?
appealing.
Do you think that's why people leave too?
Yeah, I do think it's why people leave sometimes. I think though, I think people just don't have that, and this doesn't have to be a grind where you're just like, you know, grinding yourself down to a nub every day, you know, but in the world that we live in where everything comes so easily, and it's like, you know, I can get a loaf of bread delivered to my couch, you know, and it's like, why would I put myself through this, you know? And so I think it is sometimes the reason people quit, you know, that it's just not fruitful enough for people fast enough. You know, you really have to invest in it, you know, and like Tom DeBlass always says, like, you know, great jiu-jitsu. And I think this is a quote from, I can't remember. I don't want to misquote anyone, but it's something that Tom said to me one time. And it was just, you know, great jiu-jitsu is reserved for those that deserve it, you know, and it could not be more true. You know?
Elaborate on that. What do you mean by that?
It's like, it's like you have to be willing to like pay its price, you know, like if you want to have great jiu-jitsu, you have to be willing to pay its price. You have to be willing to give it, you know, what it needs, you know, for it to give that to you, you know.
What's the price?
Sacrifice, you know, dedication, commitment, contribution, you know, like putting back in, you know, I think a combination of all those things, you know, I think that you have to be dedicated to the craft. You have to be committed, to your school and to your teammates. You have to contribute and put back in, you know, the things that people gave to you, you know, and I think that all of those things, you know, create the perfect storm for you to really achieve something great one day, you know, that you can be very proud of.
Why is that contribution so important? Why can't we just check in, check out? Why can't I just drop in twice a week, pay my dues because I'm paying?
Sure.
Why can't I just go do whatever I gotta do and leave and then be amazing as I want to be? I don't know.
I don't think that that's wrong. I don't think that you could say that that's like wrong for someone to do that. But I think it becomes more fulfilling when you contribute, you know? And I think that there's always, you know, when you were coming up, like someone had to show you things, you know, you had to ask people questions. You had to, you know, dig into other people's things, and they had to divulge information to you and lead you and share those things with you, you know, and that's how you get where you are. Even the guy that only comes, you know, that just comes twice a week and doesn't really, you know, contribute, I feel like that gets noticed, you know, and it's just kind of a different experience that way. I just think it's a more fulfilling experience if you contribute.
You know, we had Chris Howder on a show here some time ago, and he talked about those differences between sport, self-defense, and the art of jiu-jitsu, those three big pillars or the big components. And I guess what I want to ask you is, do you think that that's what you were talking about, the contribution factor? Is that the main difference between fighting versus having the art of jiu-jitsu? What I'm thinking here and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm thinking here, if we want to fight, we just want to learn how to fight. That's in a way, the contribution is not required in a sense.
No.
We're just learning for ourselves. But if we want to be part of the art of jiu-jitsu, the martial art, if we want to be true martial artists, this is where the contribution with others' progress might be actually very satisfying. It might be very, very, very visible. This is how we grow, because it's not only about me, but now it's about the guy who stands next to me.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it, man, to be honest with you. Like, I don't think I could say it better. I agree. I think I think the contribution makes it the art, instead of just, I'm just here to fight, but again, I won't say that it's wrong if that's all you want, if that's all you want from it. But I don't see that very often, to be honest with you. I have most of my students love that part of this, helping other people and, and putting back in what they got from it. I don't see that very often, where someone just comes in and they really just stay on the edge and they don't want to be, part of the team, or
they don't seem to last, those people, right?
No.
You can, those people come and go, right? It's just a different person fulfilling that same role. It's that one guy's here for a few years, he's gone, and somebody else is there doing that same thing, and then that guy's gone, and there's a third, it just keeps going.
But then you have your core, where it's like the people you always see, the faces you're always seeing, the people that are always involved, and then you have the fringe where, like you're saying, it's people come and go, and you're right. I don't see that person there for 10 years.
Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu is such a unique and amazing activity, art, sport, whichever spin you want to take on this. Have you noticed that type of connection in any other sport ever that we have in jiu-jitsu?
No, I mean, I know that I've noticed camaraderie, in most sports, but I think because of the nature of what we're doing, how close contact it is, and, I think that makes it a bit different, and I think it makes that connection more intense and more meaningful. And I can't say that it's not like that in other sports, and I haven't played a lot of other sports, to be honest with you, but I think that sort of sets it apart a bit, and I think it does make that connection stronger, and it's like, how it just, the feeling you get after, a night of, getting, beat up and, beating people up that you love, and when it's all good, and like just the feeling of having a great night of training, it just, there is nothing like that to me.
Somebody said this recently, with the conversation I had with them, and the thought here was, jiu-jitsu in its essence is an individual sport or activity or art, whatever medium you want to take. Yeah. It's an individual one. We work on ourselves oftentimes. However, the community factor, that connection, those relationships that we have are the same, if not stronger, that guys have in a team sports. And this creates a very interesting dynamic. So it's almost like the hybrid between individual sport and the team sport, and I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this? Would you consider jiu-jitsu as individual sport, or are we a team?
I mean, I'm with you on that. As far as, it's performed individually, but, I don't know anyone that's ever, done well in competition or, those kinds of things without the support of a team. You truly, you can't do it alone. You compete alone, but like you said, but it's like you need the strength of that group to really, rise in that occasion, even though it's just you. I feel that all of, that collective group is behind you when you do it, and in your training, and it comes out in those times.
I love it. I love it. You played music for many, many years.
Yeah, I did.
Do you find similarities between the art of music and art of jiu-jitsu?
Absolutely. Yeah. Being at tournaments feels like being at concerts. I always say that, and it's like the just the feeling of it, because everyone there is into their thing and their team and their, association. And, we're just like at being at a concert, everybody's wearing their favorite band's shirt. And, it's like this guy's a metal guy and this guy's a hardcore guy. And there's a ton of similarities for sure. The scenes remind me of each other.
Do you relay any of those to your students? Do you embrace the freedom of music and really the art of music, the creativity part into teaching?
I do. I think that that's kind of what I am. Like, I would say that, I'm not like the best competitor. I'm not like a hard ass or the toughest guy on the mat. I'm kind of an artist, and I think that's what I appreciate most about, jiu-jitsu is the art of it and what it does for people. And I think that came from, expressing creativity as a musician and things like that. I think jiu-jitsu is just a different way to do that. It's like you're playing a guitar, and in jiu-jitsu, you're learning to control your body in a way and control other people in a way that's not possible without, tons of practice and, things like that. So I really, I closely relate the two. And I think that part of my life definitely, rubbed off on this part of it for sure. And I kind of bring that element to it.
Well, I often say things happen for a reason. I mean,
Yeah.
If you didn't play music back then, who the hell knows where you would be right now? I mean,
Very true.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about the simple fact of if you didn't step on the mat on the very first time, in 2008,
yeah,
where your life would be right now? Have you ever just thought about that?
I have, I wasn't headed in a good direction. And I've always had my head, like a good head on my shoulders and that sort of thing. But I was incredibly lost at that time. And I was just not sure what to do with my life. Like, I did not go to college, because I pursued music, and that was kind of what I did after high school and everything. And I didn't really have anything to fall back on. I'm a hard worker, and I try to do a good job in everything that I do. And I know that I always, try to land somewhere good and with that. But had I not, seen my friend that day, and he told me that, he was about to get a blue belt, which was, for me, it was like, wow, like, I want to get a blue belt, like I want to do something, that matters with my life, because, music was like that for me. It brought people joy, right? Like, we go to a different city every day, and there were people there that, this meant something to. And that was always a joy, to provide people with something that they love and, to make them smile for a night. And if I had not stepped on the mats, I don't know what would have happened. I really don't. I had my children and all that stuff prior to that. I had a good woman in my life that kind of pushed me towards this. So I'm really, really thankful that happened to me.
What I think was unique and interesting about your story is that you were a good example that American dream is really happening. Like in my opinion, as somebody with a true passion for what they do, they actually have more chances to be successful than somebody who is a jerk and just smart, or somebody who really went to school and grinded. Not to take away from those individuals, because they are smart and they are changing the world and lives and all that.
Sure.
But I think there's something to be said about passion, something that is inside us, the little fire that drives us towards this thing that sometimes feels unreachable. And for other people, we all look like we're freaking nuts. I mean, they all freaking crazy. We are crazy. Like, don't even start me. Like, I remember talking to my dad, and I'm like, Dad, I'm gonna open Jiu-Jitsu Academy. And he's like, do what? What do you mean? You're gonna what do you mean you're gonna
like Thomas's dad never even saw him in a gi till you were a black belt.
That's true story. That's true story.
No,
wow.
That's true story. My dad was like, my dad, you know, with all the love and everything, but my dad did not support my jiu-jitsu thing, whatever you want to call it, until I got my black belt. The first time he saw me in a gi was at my black belt ceremony. But then again, like, I think what we feel that there is this opportunity that to share our passion, our love, you know, many don't see that. They don't see what we see. And I think today more than ever, jiu-jitsu is an opportunity to make good life for ourselves and our families, and provide an environment where we can feed our kids, and we can employ people, and we can really create a business in a sense to grow it. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, I hope you do, because you do it.
I mean, I agree 100%, of course. Yeah. And I mean, I think in my life, like, I've never had the attention span to do something that I wasn't passionate about. I always had such a hard time, you know, with like mundane, you know, sort of jobs and stuff like that didn't mean anything to me. Like, and I know you don't always get to pick that, you know, it's sometimes you just have to do what you have to do, you know, and I did when I had to do it. But passion has always been, so I want to do something that is meaningful to me, you know, and that makes me feel good and makes other people feel good. And that's, you know, to some people that's not important, you know, and that's fine. But for me to thrive, like, I need that, you know, and I have to pursue those things. And, you know, with the academy and stuff, it's definitely, you know, from its earliest stages to now, you know, it's gone through so many changes, and, you know, I've put a lot into it, you know, I've put so much into it, so much heart and soul into it. And now it's, you know, it's finally at a place where, you know, it is like sustaining, you know, a good life, you know, and I'm really, really grateful for that.
Well, and that, you know, at the beginning we were saying that often people misunderstand or don't understand what really takes to be an instructor and how to run things and do things. But I think that's another component of it that you just mentioned a moment ago. It takes a long time of grind, sweat, tears, and blood to really get a sustainable jiu-jitsu academy in place, doesn't it? Like, somebody told me a while back, anybody can open a club and have 10 students. Anybody can do this. That's easy. But only few can run a business of jiu-jitsu and really make living on it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just because you're good at jiu-jitsu doesn't mean your academy is going to succeed, you know, and opposite. You could be a good business person, but, you know, the product is bad, you know. I mean, there has to be a balance there, you know, and there has to be you know, there has to be a will to do both. But, like, man, it is so like the first, you know, 6 or so years were really hard, you know. And I mean, the first 3 were like, oh my gosh, you know. But I was given, you know, some opportunities, like, you know, that really helped me to get going, you know. So that the grind was rough, but it was definitely the right time, you know. Even if I didn't know it, it was the right time to do it.
Have you ever felt during that time, during that grind and struggle and obstacles and really chasing it, have you ever felt like this is not reachable? Have you ever scratched your head and sat down at night and you say, damn, I mean, maybe I should be doing something else. Like, maybe I'm just, I don't know, out of my mind here.
Yeah. I did. I got hurt a few times, like right at the beginning. For some reason, like, I don't know if anyone, if you guys have had this experience, like when someone opens a school, like all of the exiled martial artists from your area show up to, because like you don't know who they are yet, and they're like, oh, another school popped up, and they've been kicked out of 9 other ones, and of course you're desperate and you need students and you want to accommodate people. And I'm small, right? And then people would come in there and like, not necessarily to like challenge me, but they were there to challenge me, and I got hurt a few times, like really bad. Like I didn't have any insurance, and like it was costing me a fortune to like go to the hospital, and like I had like broken ribs and things like that. And I remember during a few of those times, I was just like, man, like, am I gonna be able to like survive this period? Where I can get through like this darkness, like to a little bit of light. I never thought to myself like I'm not gonna do this or like I'm gonna quit. I don't think I've ever felt strongly like that, but definitely some moments where I'm like, man, I'm just like, this is crazy, like I'm going to keep pushing forward, but this is really a rough time.
So you never had a moment where you thought, I gotta throw a towel. This is enough.
I don't think so.
Good for you.
That's great. I really don't.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm a grinder for sure. There are times when I thought I was crazy, but not like I don't think I can do this anymore.
Well, you probably are because you do jiu-jitsu for a long time, and like I just
we're all crazy.
We are crazy in some capacity, but we are insane. I mean, that's just is what it is. But,
that's so true.
I think it's a good crazy, right? It's like
no, I do too. Yeah, I do too.
You're putting your crazy in a good
use.
To good use, right?
Yes.
Instead of being destructive with it, you're finding constructive ways for that outlet, right?
Yeah,
100%.
And I think that's the interesting part. That's the beautiful part behind all of this. And having talked to so many people over the last few years, it's that I'm finding this common denominator that we all a little crazy, that this is all a little insane, but we all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different experiences. Mm-hmm. Some of us were fortunate. Some of us were unfortunate. But we all end up on the same mat. And I think that's the most beautiful part. For me personally about Jiu-Jitsu, I'm curious what you think about this. It doesn't matter whether you're a millionaire or you're broke. It doesn't matter whether you're a doctor, lawyer, mechanic, plumber. It doesn't matter if you're employed or not employed. It doesn't matter if your gender or ethnicity or religion or your political views. It doesn't matter. We're all the same on the mat. It's all the same.
Absolutely. And I think that, that's the mark of a good academy, is when you have that wide variety of people. When you walk into a school and you see all kinds of different people, you see women and you see men and you see people of different ethnicities, and everyone's comfortable there, and they all love it no matter who they are, and they're all accepted, and everyone is accommodating, and that's, you're right, like it's any kind of person, and we all can be in the same space and work towards like a common goal together, and I love that about it.
Yeah. Beautiful life.
Truly.
Rob, before we start wrapping this up,
this went by quick.
It did. I just looked at that's why I looked at the clock. Yeah.
It went quick.
It's good.
Before we start wrapping this up, what we do end of each episode, and we didn't tell you, unless you listened to the previous episode, you wouldn't even know. What we do is we have a question for you from our previous guest. He had no clue. He had no idea who will be answering it. So think of it as asking completely in blind. And, well, Gary's going to take a lead on this, but it always creates an interesting end of the conversation.
Yeah, and I really thought we were going to ask this question about 5 minutes ago. You were talking a ton about passion, and I was going to interrupt you and be like, oh, wait, hold on a second. Let's do the question now. But Rodrigo Onishi wants to know, why are you so passionate about jiu-jitsu?
Okay. Well,
Go deep. Go deep.
yeah, no, I think that I'm so passionate about jiu-jitsu, I think for a couple of reasons, but one being what it can do for a person. Because I know what it has done for me and how it helped me, and it kind of pulled me from the wreckage a little bit. And to know that I can maybe facilitate that experience for someone else is deeply meaningful to me. I would say that that's number one for sure, is what it can do for a person and seeing those results like over and over again. I also feel like now in this era that we live in, it's one of the only things that I can do that makes me completely present. Where I'm not, distracted by my phone or the noise of the world or the pull of, all the things that don't matter, in life. And in that moment when we're on the mats, and when I'm training, that is the only thing that I'm thinking about, and it just puts you in that some people call it like a flow state or whatever, that kind of thing. I think that having that is so important. And there's so many people that don't even know that. Like they just live distracted and they live, in that whirlwind of this world all the time, and jiu-jitsu gives you an hour of, completely being present, and I think that is like so important for people, and that most people don't even know it.
Have you ever found yourself in the spot talking about flow state, where you're rolling, you're so submerged into this freedom of mind and body, and your student stops you and he goes like, wait, what did you do? And you're like, I had no clue. I don't know. I was just flowing.
Yes. It happens all the time, actually. I'm not like, I'm not one of those people that like analyzes everything that I do when I train. I know guys that are like, they're so strategic and so like when the match is over, they're like, oh yeah. And they break it all down. I should have done this here and this. And I'm like, man, I don't remember anything. And maybe that's a bad thing, but that happens to me all the time. You're like, what did you do there? And I'm like, I honestly don't know. You're gonna have to run it back for me. Like, I'll try to recreate it. And I think that's the artist in me, like we talked about before. I'm not necessarily thinking of it, as a like in a strategic way or like I'm kind of letting it go, and letting things flow as they will.
Well, but that I think, one, we all different humans, and I think this is an important part for all of us to really understand and get more familiar with. We are all different people. Some of us are task oriented, other of us are creators, and others are very emotionally driven. And then others are rigid, and whatever categories we put ourselves in, all that creates different people. And jiu-jitsu is not cookie cutter. It is available to all of us. The more we understand how we work, more we understand ourselves, more we can benefit from it. We can draw and pull the true essence of what jiu-jitsu is.
Yeah, for each individual person. Like I think that like your jiu-jitsu, it reflects you so much. Like you can tell what kind of people, what kind of person someone is, through their jiu-jitsu. It's very telling.
Absolutely. Yeah. I often tell my students, you get 100 black belts in one room, ask them to teach one technique. They're going to teach that different. You're going to get 100 versions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Rob, before we officially come to the end of this conversation, where can people find you? If anybody wants to reach out to you as they are listening to this and scratching their head, about your life, about what you do, where you are, and what you've done, what you're going to do. Where are you available? Social media, websites? Where are you at?
I'm pretty quiet on social media, but I have all of it. So the academy is, at Leverage BJJ on Instagram, Leverage BJJ on Facebook, and then like I have my personal Instagram and things like that. It's just my name, just Rob Hileman. So pretty much through those channels.
Outstanding.
Easy.
Outstanding. We like Izzy. Like Izzy. Listen, thanks for being here. That's number one. Thanks for sharing your beautiful, vulnerable story. And I think there are so many life lessons with everything that we heard in the last hour or so that I'm pretty confident we all can get a little bit better listening to what you've done, what you've accomplished. And we're just starting. At least I think we are just starting. There's so much ahead of us, isn't it?
Oh, for sure, man. Absolutely. Years and years. I'm looking forward to all of it.
Amazing. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing the story, Gary.
It's a pleasure, guys.
Thanks for a really awesome conversation and an easy hour. Sometimes I bring this up once in a while. You look over at the clock and you're 20 minutes in and you're like, oh man, how are we going to do this for another 40 minutes? And this was a great time.
It
was
an
absolute pleasure, guys. I loved it.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Let's wrap it up, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.